Well, just some more northern thoughts on one of my favorite books, second favorite, actually, and probably by far one of the funniest authors, Douglas Adams. And of course, his classic Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And kind of enjoying a day off with the dog, and got out some bush, some sun and rain, and I was just thinking of a couple of quotes from this book. And of course, I'll start off with the introduction, which I thought was rather hilarious and very telling and very true. Let's see if I can find it here. Of course, there's a big introduction from Dawkins, which long-winded, goes nowhere. Here we go. For out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 92 million miles is an utterly insignificant little green-blue planet whose ape-descendant life forms are so amazingly primitive that they still think digital watches are a pretty neat idea. This planet has, or rather had, a problem, which was this. Most of the people living on it were unhappy for pretty much all of the time. Many solutions were suggested for this problem, but most of these were largely concerned with the movements of small green pieces of paper, which is odd because on the whole, it wasn't the small green pieces of paper that were unhappy. And so the problem remained. Lots of people were mean, and most of them were miserable, even the ones with digital watches. Many were increasingly of the opinion that they'd all made a big mistake in coming down from the trees in the first place. And some said that even the trees had been a bad move, and that no one should have ever left the oceans. Of course I own a digital watch, but I'm not so miserable. But yeah, Adams really hits a key note there on just us as a culture and a civilization. And I think he's right. Like, we probably shouldn't have came down from the trees. Life was much simpler without this kind of system we have in place in this kind of modern world. And kind of reminds me, even a little deeper is like, it's what makes us sick. What makes us unhappy is all these materialistic things and that drive for that little green piece of paper, because that green piece of paper is just a green piece of paper. And we've given it so much power and meaning in lives, and it's so telling. This book is just chock full of such insights like that on materialism and culture and consumerism and how we are as a society. And he has such a British dry sense of humor, and it really kind of pokes at that. And I think it's really important. I really hope most of you out there have read the book, or at least seen the movie, because the movie's pretty decent, even the 80s version. And the latest one with Mos Def in the mid-thousands was pretty good too, I have to admit. I had lots of laughs. But it's there's so much to take away from it. And, and of course, the other part of this book that I always think is important is the cover. It's Don't Panic. And that seems to be a, theme throughout the series. And it is true, and especially in life. Don't panic. It creates so much more chaos, and really doesn't matter how much panic doesn't change the outcome. If anything, it just makes it worse. So I've lived it. I've lived in some pretty dangerous things and done some pretty wild career moves, and I've done a lot of stupid shit. And but any time that I instilled panic, usually just created more and made things exponentially worse. And that can translate into any form, whether it's at work or life or jiu-jitsu or just being alive. Don't panic. You don't really have any control anyway, so it really doesn't matter. So just enjoy it, be there for the moment, and it'll work itself out as it usually does. All part of the plan, right? So I'm going to read my another quote. I came across this the other day, and I actually have this one bookmarked. So it kind of ties in with the introduction, and it's the beginning of chapter 23. It is important and popular fact that things are not always what they seem. For instance, on the planet Earth, man had always assumed that he was more intelligent than dolphins because he had achieved so much. The wheel, New York, wars, and so on. Whilst all the dolphins had ever done was muck about in the water, having a good old time. But conversely, the dolphins had always believed that they were far more intelligent than man for precisely the same reasons. I think the dolphins are right. I think we were just meant to muck around, have some fun. Don't keep life simple. Keep it in the fun. It's funny how the animals seem to have it right. And, I guess in the end, and even in the book, so long, thanks for all the fish, right? They were trying to warn us the whole time, and we were just too busy thinking they were doing a song and dance for our entertainment when really it was a warning. And it's funny how that may even be true. Like, the amount of truth in this book sometimes is kind of alarming and can be shocking. And especially when it deals with human nature. And of course, the humorous spin and everything is just, I love it. And I highly recommend you all get out and read the book. Even the movies. Movies are decent. They're not the worst. They're probably far funnier than what's currently out there and currently being made. So, sometimes it's good to go back and read something out of the Stone Age for some of you young folks. So, but anyways, I'm probably going to do that in the future. Do some more reading, little quotes out of books, poems and stuff, excerpts that are, show a bit of meaning. So, just maybe this week give yourself some thought on, the difference. Maybe the dolphins were right all along, and maybe the Volgons aren't. And, the bureaucratic system and the little green things and the digital watches really don't matter unless you're having some fun. So, just give it some thought this week and, try to see some humor and some stuff. And always remember, don't panic. And tally ho, motherfuckers.